What's going on, people? Welcome to the first edition of Overreaction Monday of the 2022 season. It has been a wild season so far, and I am here with my man Kenneth. Kenneth, it could have been a lot worse day for you, but your team led by superstar quarterback Cooper Rush got the W and all that. So first of all, how are you doing?
You know what? I'm questioning whether I know football at all. After just the way the first 2 weeks have gone and how confident I've been, especially on the betting side with a couple of these teams, and to just like even the Atlanta game, I'm like, wow, the Rams nearly blew it. The Rams
Yeah,
nearly lost to the
oh,
Falcons.
28-3 too.
Oh man. So no, I'm good. I was a believer in Cooper Rush this week, and then of course I put out Bengals -7 on our off the ball network parlay. So really backtracked hard on that the day of, and then they go out and beat the Bengals. So yeah, it was a wild Sunday for sure. A lot of crazy results. Even that Arizona game too was wild down the stretch.
Okay, so we're obviously this is Overreaction Monday, and I said this is the first Overreaction Monday for the 2022 season for the Off the Ball Network. We didn't get to do one last week, but we had to make sure we get one in for these Monday night games. So talking about that Cowboys Bengals game, what's your overreaction from that game?
I think the overreaction is that the Bengals are going to miss the playoffs, and I don't even know if they're going to get that close to the playoffs, to be honest.
They don't look. I think I saw a crazy stat where since last in the last 2 years, could be the last 2 years, that Joe Burrow's been sacked like 86 times. It could be wrong, but it was some stat. I don't know
And the
if it's
next
over the last
closest
two
is like
years.
50.
Yeah, and the next closest is in the 50s, and it's we have talked about the Bengals and their offensive line, and they did retool it, right? I think they added Lyle Collins, and so they've added some pieces. But I don't even think it's all the offensive line has been bad, but Burrow also hasn't helped either, holding the ball long for too long and all that. And just he kind of a lot. It's like Daniel Jones. I've seen this a lot of Daniel Jones. Like we've given up sacks, but it's like he's like walking into the pressure. It's like he's just
Yeah.
going right into it. So it goes hand in hand. Offensive line has struggled, but the Bengals. I mean, I think the if we're gonna over, I don't even know if it's an overreaction, but I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. And I thought this is a team that maybe could. I don't think they were going to get back. I didn't have them going back to the Super Bowl, but I
I
thought they
don't know
would
if
at
they
least
go
win the
above
division.
500,
Oh,
to be honest.
so we're going under 500 for the Bengals.
8 and 9 with the
That's
way that
under,
they're
yeah.
looking right now. Now, I think what helps them is they do get Pittsburgh a couple times. They do get Cleveland still. Although that being said, one of their Cleveland games is going to be late in the year, so you have to play Deshaun Watson then.
Hey,
They
Deshaun
haven't
Watson
seen the
comes back. Yeah.
Ravens. Now, the Ravens just melted down against Miami, but they looked pretty good week one. So I don't think it's that big of an overreaction to say that there's a chance that the Bengals don't go above 500 this year. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and say that they're going like 6-11 or anything nuts, but they could go 8 and 9 pretty easily with the way that they've looked, giving up a ton of sacks. Jamar Chase, he looked good last week, had a quiet day yesterday. T. Higgins had a pretty decent day for them. We haven't seen a lot of Joe Mixon yet. And that defense, it's been okay, but you gave up
Mm-hmm.
23 to Trubisky and 17 to Cooper Rush, and you'd expect them to be maybe even a little bit lower than that. So that would be my overreaction because I don't think that there's a lot to overreact about Dallas. They've like Cooper Rush is okay. He's not great, but he played well enough yesterday for them to win. He's doing what a backup should do, which is just don't turn the ball over and lose the game and hope that your defense, which Micah Parsons might be defensive player of the year. He's incredible how well he's played.
Yeah,
So
they're using him right.
I,
I know a lot of people weren't crazy about the draft pick. And we had our live NFL draft show, and Mo wasn't crazy about it because he was used as, he was supposed to be a stand-up linebacker for the most part. And he had pass rushing skills, but they drafted him for a linebacker, and it was kind of high for, especially nowadays with linebackers. They're kind of like running backs. You don't draft
Yeah.
them that high if they're not like going to be rushing the passer. Now they finally realize he's pretty good at rushing the passer. We should just put him on the outside, and we don't care about anything else. Like just let him rush the passer, and now they're getting their money's worth. Now it's justifiable why they took him that high, and,
And when you
and
have a
he's
guy
been
like that,
great.
it changes things for everybody because then
Yep.
your corners don't get burned as easily because the quarterback doesn't have as much time. And I saw a lot of people yesterday saying, "Oh yeah, well everyone can pass rush the Bengals," but he also did it the week before against Tom. Let's not forget that it was the Cowboys' offense that let them down week one. It wasn't the defense. So um, Parsons is incredible, and I think for the first time in a long time, I'm going to say Dallas is going to lean on their defense for the next month because we have not been able to say
But
that about
but
Dallas
but the
defenses.
defense has been good the last year the defense was good.
We were a
And
turnover defense. We give up a
yeah,
ton of yards, but we're going to create two or three
it's a yeah,
turnovers, and
it's
that's what
it's a
our
it's a
strength is.
bend but don't break type of defense,
Yeah,
right? And take advantage, of teams' miscues throwing the ball. They're going to give up yards, but as long as you don't give up touchdowns, that's kind of the most important thing. But it's
yeah,
a good win. Like, you know, we could be here talking about you guys being 0-2, and really, like, listen, there's a lot of people who are reacting after the first week and saying the season's over and all that, and I understand that a feeling, but you had to go into this week thinking you could win this game and take advantage of the Bengals, whatever's going on in Cincinnati, and that's
yeah,
exactly what you did. You played good defense. You got to the quarterback. You didn't let their big time playmakers go crazy, right? And you got the dub. So now there's hope. Now you got
yeah.
hope, because the Commanders lost. The Eagles are playing tonight. We'll see what happens. They got a tough game against Minnesota. Minnesota looked good, against Green Bay last week. The Giants are 2-0, but you're not scared of the Giants because Giants didn't. They're 2-0, but they haven't played great. I mean, week one, Tennessee field goal went right left last week. That supposedly starting quarterback from Carolina, who should not be a starting quarterback anymore, cost him because he missed everything, and that's not an overreaction. He's just not. He does not. And now we're going
He's
to talk
not.
about him later. He's not a starting quarterback anymore.
But I mean,
And
look at the next couple weeks for Dallas. You've got Giants, and then you got Commanders. Let's just say you go 500 there, you're 2-2, and then you play the Rams and Eagles. Maybe you're able to scrap out one of those games as well. You could be 500, and then suddenly Dak's coming back, and then
exactly,
the season's
exactly.
not over. And that's why I didn't want him to give up assets. Everyone was talking about you have to go out and sign somebody. You have to go out and sign somebody. Why are we giving up assets for 4 or 5 weeks? Look, if the chips don't fall our way and the season's over early on, that's just the way that it goes. But I thought that Rush was good enough to get us a couple wins, and he may be able to do that. He got us one already. Let's see if he can pick up a couple more over the next month.
Yeah, and you didn't need him to be Superman and all that. You just needed him to be solid.
Yeah,
Just play within all. And I agree with you. Going to trade for because the minute Dak went down, it's who we're going to trade for, or we have a team that could win. Let's do this, let's do that. And I think you guys did the right thing sticking with Cooper. He knows the offense, and when you bring in another quarterback, I don't care how good they are, they got to learn the offense.
yeah.
And that's not easy. So good win, and you're back in it. You're back in it. So I want to talk about, and we just talked about him briefly. Let's talk about the Giants Panthers game, and I have a lot of things to say about this because, like I said, it wasn't a pretty win for the Giants. It wasn't pretty. Offense looked
Yeah.
anemic, but I want to talk about the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. I don't think this is an overreaction, like we just mentioned. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the league anymore. He didn't look like it for the last few years, and this was kind of like, okay, he's got Matt Rule, got some weapons, right? DJ Moore, you got McCaffrey. So you got weapons there to play, right? He beat out Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Some feeling good. I don't think it's it. That's it. I don't think he's no longer a starting quarterback in this league. He's a good back. He may be a very good backup, someone you need in for a few games that could probably, squeak out a few wins for you, but 17-game season, I can't trust him to be my starting quarterback. I don't think that's an overreaction. I don't know how you feel, but I think the Baker Mayfield starting quarterback train is officially dead.
I just think we've made every excuse for why Baker is still a starter, but we haven't seen it since that rookie season, right? And I think part of the reason why is because he goes to Cleveland his rookie year, he looks okay because their quarterbacks have not been good there for a very long
Yeah.
time. They win some football games, they go to the playoffs, everyone starts to believe, but at a certain point you just have to look at the entire roster here and realize that, man, he's getting carried by a great run game, a good defense, especially defensive line, and now that he doesn't have that, and it's not like he lacked weapons when he was in Cleveland. Him and Odell
No.
didn't click, but Odell was still good. Jarvis Landry is a solid number two. We're seeing him put up decent numbers in New Orleans this year, even. And I don't know. I think we made every excuse, whether it was coaching, whether Baker's playing hurt, like every
Yeah.
quarterback isn't getting hurt. And
Exactly.
I think it was a great story for his rookie year. And since then, he hasn't gotten any better. And his counterparts that got drafted around him have. After
Hmm.
that rookie season, Josh Allen is now an MVP favorite. Lamar Jackson's going to get a massive contract, especially after how he played on Sunday,
Yep.
despite them losing. And Baker, he's limited in what he can do. We're seeing that now. He's fine, but he's the 30th best quarterback. And if you're a team like Carolina that has some weapons and okay defense, maybe felt like you had a shot at that seventh seed in the NFC if Baker was any good. And yeah, it's just unfortunate to see that maybe he's just not that guy
Yeah.
that we thought he was.
He isn't it. He missed a lot of throws, even week one. Against you would think, revenge game against your former team. Didn't look good in the first half. Didn't look good in the first this whole game. Just struggled. And I think he cost his team a game, a chance to win because they could have won this football
I
game
think he
easily.
cost him two. He's
Cost him
cost
two
them
games.
both.
Yeah, no, he cost him both games.
Let's just call it what it is. If you get half decent quarterback play, the Carolina Panthers are 2-0, and we're talking about them in a very different light. And I'm
Yes.
not going to go crazy and say that Sam Darnold could have done that for them because let's face it, we know that he couldn't. But
Yeah.
man, there's some quarterbacks out there, and you start thinking about what's Jimmy G's future next year, what's Brett Huntley's future next year. There's a few
Brett
guys,
Hundley.
and right? I mean, if Lamar does get that extension, they're not going to want to hang on to him likely. So I don't know. That's my thinking on Baker. I haven't been high on Baker ever, so I'm
Ever.
not
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
shocked to see
I'm
this.
on. I'm on that. I'm on that. I've been on that train. I didn't get why he was the number one pick. Um, I was a Sam Darnold and Josh Allen. Those should have been the top two picks in the draft, and that was also the year Saquon was selected number two. Um, and along with Jeff, running backs should not have been drafted that high, but that's for a whole different type of show. But I, I wonder if Sam Darnold is healthy when he comes back after week 4 because he's on IR. I wonder if
Mhm.
Baker continues to struggle. If Matt Rule, and now Matt Rule's job's on the line too. He
Yeah,
has maybe the hot. I mean, right? He's up there. Kingsbury, and we could talk about that. He kind of saved his job, you know, uh, with that performance yesterday. Um, but I wonder if Sam Darnold gets another crack at this job if Baker continues to just be mediocre. I know Sam Darnold's six. It's the same way. He's kind of up and down, and it's not that much of an upgrade. But I wonder if they go back and give Sam one more shot to see, because I don't know. I don't. I feel like Sam maybe I don't know, they're both kind of but I feel like Sam could do a little bit more, even though he's more turnover prone. But Baker turns the ball over too. Just feel like Sam has a little bit more talent than Baker does. I think Baker's he's lived off that Oklahoma, being in that offense, that helped him a lot. And, you know, so and I wonder, I don't know if you feel, how do you think they can possibly go back to Sam Darnold, or they're just like, all right, Matt Rules is like, I'm probably not going to be here regardless of who the quarterback is. I'm probably going to take a college job after this. So it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is.
I think that he feels like he just has to ride it out with Baker because he's already seen the Sam Darnold, and he knows that, like, hey, this just isn't it. This isn't the guy. Probably thinks that with Baker too, and I don't know. I think it's a mess in Carolina. They're going to be bad. I talked about them on my show potentially being a team that could battle for the 7 if Baker was even half decent, and that appears to be a pipe dream. So it's unfortunate, but we'll have to wait and see with Carolina.
Yep, it's definitely unfortunate. 2 games they could easily be 2-0, and we're talking about a different outcome right now. But Raiders Cardinals.
Crazy.
And I've been
Crazy.
very, very critical of Kyler Murray, and everything I was right about until the fourth quarter and overtime, where Kyler Murray actually looked like the quarterback that we all have been waiting for him to be. He looked anemic first 3 quarters, and they show the video of the Vegas fan with the champagne spraying it, celebrating because they looked like they were going to win, and they did. They looked like they were going to win handily. But like I mentioned yesterday on the Spaces and in the chat, there's 4 quarters in football, right, Ken? There's 4 quarters in football.
Yeah,
there is, right? I'm
well,
pretty
if
sure.
there was only 3 quarters, then we would have
No.
had a far
Well,
different
the
thought on
Falcons
Tua.
would have a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, Jelani, I had to say that. The Falcons would have a Super Bowl if it were 3.
Oh, that was a cheap shot.
I'm sorry, Jelani. 28-3. You guys blew it. You blow it. Sorry. Jelani owes team.
I have to say though, what impressed me down the stretch about Kyler was, like, I think what's gotten into his head almost is that everyone keeps talking about how he needs to be like a pocket passer. And the strength of Kyler Murray is the fact that you have to always be worried about him taking off.
Yes.
And when he did that yesterday, then they succeeded. And I didn't see him do that all week 1 against Kansas City.
Mhm.
And then he didn't do it for 3 quarters. And then when he starts to make plays with his legs, like that 2-point convert that he scored was
that was putting your team on your back. It's like when I talked about Saquon when a 2-point conversion they went for, right, and against the Titans. That's why you're considered one of the best players, and that's when you need your big time players to make big time plays. Like if that play was perfect by the Titans week 1, like that's good defense. They got to him, but
yeah.
Saquon made a play. That's exactly what happened with Kyler yesterday. The defense did everything right. They did everything right. Kyler just made a play.
Mm-hmm.
He showed why they invested all this money on him, why he was the number 1 pick, why everyone thinks that he can be an MVP type player. And that's been my thing with him, because the inconsistencies, like last year, like he was, you had him winning MVP, right? He looked like he was going to be the MVP, and then he faded. All right. And that's been my thing. And then the whole off season, the diva stuff and all that. And it's cool to be a diva, but you gotta be a winner to be a diva and all that. And all these things with the contract and all this. They needed that win desperately, because we had talked about that.
We were talking about Arizona being dead, and Cliff Kingsbury's done. Like he's going back to college. There's some jobs that are opening up. Like that's where he's headed.
Arizona State, Herm just got fired. Nebraska needs a head coach. Like I was already putting him in college. Too. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I saw that video. I just saw it right before we hopped on the show. Like that's kind of crazy, but we talked about Kingsbury, like he could be the first coach fired this year. And there was rumors last year after the collapse, at the end of the season, and then they got destroyed in the playoffs, that maybe Kingsbury, this is, maybe it's just too much. The NFL is just too much for him. And he was like a surprise hiring first of all, right? That was kind of a shock. He got fired from Texas Tech and then go get an NFL job. So we had, but that they
what's crazy is on the other side of the things too, was that the Raiders lose week 1 and then they look dominant week 2, and it's like, this is the Raiders team that we thought they could be, and they're going to be 1-1 going into next week, and their season's not over. And now, wow, they're 0-1 in the division, 0-2 overall in a division where you probably have to go 10-7 in order to make the playoffs in general. So now the rest of the way, you have to go 10-5 with 5 division games that are all going to be battles. Although after the way Denver's looked through 2 weeks, I don't know how big of a battle that Denver team's going to be. But still, this is not it's not going to get any easier. We knew that they were opening with the Chargers, and then Cardinals was one that could go either way, but it's not going to get easier as you keep going through the season. So not time to hit panic quite yet for Raiders fans, but you lose next week, then it definitely is.
It's if they had got blown out, and it's kind of a weird feeling, right? Because you're 0-2, you should probably be 2-0. So it's like
you get the Titans next week,
and we'll see how the Titans look this today against Buffalo.
They're already down 7-0, so it's not a great start.
It's not looking good. Sorry, Walker. All right, they're already down 7-0, so that's not good. But it's weird because you're 0-2, so there's no moral. I mean, people talk about moral victories, and I think moral victories are more for teams that are bad. Those are more for like bad like the Texans probably feel good. They almost beat the Broncos. So those teams get moral victories. Bad teams. I don't know if you're the Raiders, how good you're
There's
really
no
feeling.
Moral victories.
There's no moral victories because you can't go down 0-2 in this division. That's the thing. This division is ruthless. So, and we haven't even seen the Broncos even play up to their caliber yet, right? We feel like the Chargers, if their tight end wasn't half-assing it, maybe they're 2-0, and you got the Chiefs, and you can never count out the Chiefs because they've shown every year that they're going to get to the AFC Championship, and they have the best quarterback in football, and maybe the best coach in football. So you can't count them out. I don't care who they lost. You can't count them out. So no moral victories for the Raiders. They're 0-2, and that's not good. And they should have easily beat the Cardinals. So that's a tough loss for them. I don't think they're feeling good right now. They're not feeling good right now. And especially defensively, they need to work on some stuff defense. And then the fumbles, like what's his face? Who's the wide receiver? Renfro fumbled. He fumbled the play before, right? Like, and he was down, and then he fumbles again, and then they get the fumble 6, and it's just like, wow, like it's Raiders like. It's very Raiders like, But we'll see how they.
Also, the Titans just had Taylor Lewan go down once again with what looks like an injury.
I think Taylor's another one. He might be. It might be done. It might be over for Taylor.
Well, he's definitely a cut candidate for them because they owe him a lot of money, and this is his last season in Tennessee.
He hasn't been good. I think he had
Go
that
focus
game
on the podcast. I love Bustin' the Boys.
Hey,
great pod.
Bustin' the Boys is good. It's one of the best pods they have on Barstool. So at least he got that because I think his days as being the left tackle for the Titans maybe coming to that. He hasn't looked good in a while. So, but all right, Ken, let's go to a new segment. We got overreaction, underreaction. I don't know if underreaction is even a word, but we just made it.
We're going with it.
We're going with it, and if it is, then good. If it's not, well, that's good too. So we got a few topics. We're a few things I'm going to ask Ken, and we're going to see if this is an overreaction or an underreaction. Then we're going to follow that up with our hot take of the week. So this is going to be something we're going to do every week at the Off the Ball Network. So, Ken, let's go with the first one. And this has been a hot topic in our chat. Hot topic in our chat, especially with some people's reactions with this certain quarterback. Ken, is Tua the answer for the Miami Dolphins? Is that an overreaction or underreaction?
It is a slight overreaction just based off of 1 week. Now, don't get me wrong. That was a special performance by Tua.
That wasn't just like a 300 yards, 2 touchdowns.
That's a 6 touchdown performance, 400 plus yards.
6 touchdowns. And coming down from against a good team, a very good team.
Now, I think Miami just is a super dangerous offense because you have Tyreek on the deep ball and Waddle that I think by the end of the season we might be talking about him as top 10 wide receiver if we're not already, because
he's special. He's special.
And we saw it last year. It was just a lot of underneath stuff from Tua, and a lot of the coverages that he had yesterday, like Baltimore, where are you?
Baltimore,
where are you on this play?
Baltimore,
because Tyreek is waving at you from the 20-yard line going into the end zone. So
yes, I couldn't believe how many times I think all right, people are gonna go with like, oh, Tua is still underthrown. I think it was just a shocker that how wide open Tyreek Hill was, because a lot of those plays, like, why is he that wide open? He's
Yeah.
the fastest person on the field, and he is literally 10, 15 yards, ahead of the defense. Like, how is that possible? Like, it's whatever the Ravens were doing. The busted coverages were and that's their good secondary too. Like, it's not a slouch secondary, and the undisciplined from the Ravens was absolutely crazy. But
Now I'll give him
they
this:
have
he's 2-0. He's 2-0 with the weapons that he has. We're going to
yes.
get to see them on Thursday night going up against the Bengals, which it's a road game. If you go 3-0, then we have to start having the conversation at that point, in spite of how bad Cincinnati has looked. This is still a team that went to the Super Bowl last year that we think at some point will wake up. I don't think they'll wake up enough to make the playoffs, but they have to wake up at some point, because after that, if they beat the Jets, they won't get credit.
Hey,
And they
the
get to play the
Jets.
Jets
Hey,
twice.
Joe
But
Flacco.
the Jets just
Flacco
won as well.
mania.
So
The Jets came back. This was a story.
Flacco
This was the
mania.
week of the comebacks, Ken. A lot of comebacks. Like it was
But games
crazy.
where if you're from a betting perspective, or if you're in like a pick'em pool and you're just sitting there thinking, okay, how does Cleveland lose that football game? And I don't want to hear blaming Nick Chubb for running it into the end zone, because
No, it's not
people
his
were throwing
fault.
that out there.
No, that's
He ran it into
ridiculous.
the end zone believing that you're up 2 scores,
Thinking we're playing the Jets. We should win this football game easily.
and then you get burned by Corey Davis to then muff your onside kick and then give up another. Like, you can't blame Nick Chubb for that loss.
No, you
He had
cannot
3
blame Nick Chubb
touchdowns
for
on the
that.
day. I'm not going to hear that it's a Nick
No,
Chubb
no.
problem.
Ken,
So,
we got a special guest joining us right now. We got
here we
I
go.
haven't seen this man in a while on the show, and I'm literally, I got chills on my arms right now because I'm so excited to have him on. We got our VP, Jeff Hunt. What's going on, man?
Not much. It's gonna be hard to live up to that intro. I definitely don't deserve it. But if somebody's got, if it's got to be for somebody, I'll take it. I'll accept it because I'm humble. So
He wasn't going to give me that one, Jeff. So
Yeah.
it had to go to
Okay.
somebody.
no, you guys are killing it, man. Overreaction Monday.
Yeah, I was excited. This is my
great.
first time hosting, and I missed every single Overreaction Monday last season because I was working overnights. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the reins today, and I want to host it. And I'm happy you're on, Jeff. And like I said, haven't seen you. We haven't done a show in a while together.
It's been a minute, man.
It's been a while. I finally got some time, so I'm excited. Just trying to get a bunch of pods going, and I'm excited to do this. So Jeff, let's talk about your. We were just talking about the Dolphins Ravens.
Yeah, I caught some of that.
Bunch of overreactions from that game.
Yes.
On both sides. So what's your biggest overreaction from that game?
My biggest overreaction is that the Dolphins have a I'll say top 4 roster, and we got two quarters, or maybe 1 quarter of what they drafted Tua for. For I don't know, 30, 40 minutes of that game, I'm like, I said it the whole game. I said, if we flop quarterbacks, Lamar takes this Dolphins team is a serious Super Bowl contender, with that. But I don't want to take away. Tua showed up at the end of that game. He did what was needed to be done. He threw some really, really, really good passes. I think that 21-point deficit actually opened up the offense, because they were like, what the hell? Like, what are we going to do? Run the ball? And that's when, but who knows? That might have been when it clicked. I mean, and now but since it's Overreaction Monday, I'll make this comparison. We saw that when that happened to Mahomes, in his second year. It was like, once he realized, like, no, just go ahead and throw it. Like, if the guy looks open, it doesn't matter if it's, 1st and 10, if it's 3rd and 5, whatever. If he looks open, throw the bomb, and, and have the confidence in it. And when Tua did that, like, he looked. It's crazy to say he had one of the greatest games in Dolphins history, by the way. He was up there. I think Greasy, ironically, Greasy was the only one that was close. I was like, what? Not Marino, but anyway. But he looked the most comfortable in that time, and which was weird. They're down. They need quick points, and he looked like he was having the most fun. So maybe this is the start of like, okay, let's start to open this thing up a little bit and let him cook.
Yeah.
They said all those years with Russell Wilson they're very similar
Let Russ
quarterbacks.
cook. Yeah, let Russ cook.
And
Let's
they were
Tua cook.
for years they were just like, let him go. Dolphins defense wasn't bad. And another thing is Ravens secondary is terrible.
Me and Ken just spoke about that. The whatever was going on in that secondary,
they're a mess.
It's a disaster. They have you got Humphrey, who's an all-pro. They got some guys.
He's kind of like, I watch a lot of Ravens games because of my wife. Humphrey is not. He's a little bit like Diggs in Dallas, as to where it's like we understand what it looks like, but we also see the deficiencies when you see play in and play out. The Ravens, Lamar looked great. Lamar has done nothing to hurt, his reputation. I thought he played one of his best games.
He looked good. He looked really
good. I thought he looked like
did.
a really good quarterback. Going into it, I'm like, the thing you need to do is, here's what I'll say about Lamar. Here's an overreaction. And I said this on our preview show last week that I do. I said, we're at the point now to where for like 2 years, it was like, oh, you got to keep Lamar and make him throw and do. And I said, you can't do that anymore. Like, you need Lamar moving. You need him.
Of course.
Maybe you'll hit him. Maybe he throws over, across his body, takes a chance. If you let him be comfortable in the pocket, he's starting to pick you apart. And that's the next level of his game. None of that game yesterday was on him.
No.
Yeah.
I have an overreaction.
Okay.
I have an overreaction. I think Mike McDaniel is already a top 5 coach in football.
I like him. I like him a lot.
I think he's really good.
I was upset what they did.
This offense looks like an explode. Like last year under Flores, right?
Yeah.
You know how Flores is going to coach. Defensive coaches, their strategy. They're not going to take chances down the field. And I think that hurt Tua. I think Tua wants to fling that thing. He wanted to show people to fling that thing. And they add Tyreek this year. And once you add a Mike McDaniel, you just know he's under the Shanahan system. He's that boy genius, McVay type of coach. And you knew, okay, he's going to let him fling it. And we've seen that. Like, they're taking shots down the field, and they have the weapons to do it. They have Gesicki in the middle, with Waddle looks like, and Ken just said Waddle might end up the season as a top 10 wide receiver.
It's a fantastic the best wide receiver combination we've had since the Marks brothers, back probably before you guys were born, in all honesty. It was something to see. It was fun for a day. Here's what we know is going to happen. This is what every team does. Now the next week, the Bills are going to come out. They're going to play, a prevent defense. That's all it is. You can call it a shell. You can call it a cover 4. You can call it quads, whatever you want. It's just prevent defense. That's what they do against guys like Mahomes. And they're going to make Tua throw it sideline to sideline and make those long throws, which keeps the ball in the air, which lets you attack. That's what's going to happen next. We'll see how he handles it. He passed the test, but I don't know. It's a bit of a mirage what happened against the Ravens, but some of those plays were really, really good throws. It looks like he's learning to play with his players, which is what I like. But this, next week will be a whole different animal, because they'll be like, okay, if you think you're going to do that, here's what we're going to do. Now you got to dink and dunk and run, and then Josh Allen's on the other side. So we'll see how he handles it. But if the Dolphins come out of this, these first 3 games 3-0, they're an absolute Super Bowl contender if they do it. Do I think they will? Probably not. But it's Overreaction Monday, so why not?
I don't know. Overreacting I'm going to do next week if they beat the Bills is going to be insane, because I low key really like this Dolphins team a lot, and they look explosive. They definitely look explosive.
The biggest overreaction of the weekend, I'm sure you guys covered it. I won't be on super long tonight. Me and Mo Murphy have our college football show to do here shortly. I don't know if he'll stop by or not. I hope he does. But biggest overreaction is, it's the NFL. You have no idea what's going to happen week to week. Nobody could have predicted. Nobody could predict
winning
the Cowboys game. Nobody could predict, the Giants, what they've done.
The Jets
the
coming
Jets
back
in a game that you can't win, over 99% chance. You know what? Let's here's another overreaction. Let's do away with this win percentage thing. It's obviously
they do
not
that
true.
all the time. They do that all the
silly.
time. Yeah.
Because it's based on previous games, but every game's its own game. So there is no way to
2% chance. Well, guess what? Then crazy shit happens, and then suddenly it's 100.
They gave the Patriots a 1% chance of winning the Super Bowl, and like that. I agree. We need to stop that, because you just can never. You just don't know.
And Ken, I do totally agree. I understand in retrospect what they're saying about Chubb, but no way you can
No.
he should have. You know what I'm saying? Like if he did it, I would be like, wow, that's a risk and good for you. Nobody expects Chubb to go down there in that situation.
No,
He
no,
gave his
no,
team a
no.
99% chance to win. So I totally
Exactly.
agree
It's
with
not his fault.
you on that. And I do understand that if they would have just laid down on the ball, they probably would have won the game. That's in retrospect. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're
But
Chubb, go get your touchdown. He's given up so
and in that
many.
situation, you're looking at the team that you're playing as well, thinking,
Yeah,
Playing
you're
the Jets.
Joe
okay,
Flacco.
Joe Flacco's going to
You're
then
playing
air
the
it out
corpse
to
of
Corey
Joe
Davis, and
Flacco.
then
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
So,
crazy.
yeah,
you got to go down the list of a lot of other guys before you're going to point at Nick
So
Chubb as the
I
reason
missed
that
it.
they
What
lost that
were
game.
your guys' biggest overreactions so far? Like on the show that I've missed?
Oh, we were
Bengals,
gonna
probably our Bengals one.
Yeah, we were
Oh.
going through. We have a segment we're doing overreaction, underreaction, and we were going through it right
I
before you
like
came
that.
on. Yeah, so we're just going over some of the things. So I asked Ken, overreaction is two of the guy for the Dolphins, and he had said slight overreaction. So
Yeah.
Jeff, you are a Dolphins fan. I want to get your take. Is Tua the answer for the Miami Dolphins? Is that an overreaction or is that an underreaction?
That's an overreaction, and not yet. He's got a lot of talent, but we've seen a lot of these guys come through the league, and we know they're talented. We know they have spurts. How consistent can you be? We're less than 2 years from when Kyler Murray looked like the best quarterback in the league for what,
We
8
just
weeks,
talked
9
about him.
weeks.
Yep.
Not that he's great game yesterday, but is it sustainable? Can Tua become a sustainable quarterback? So
Yeah.
I think it's an overreaction right now. I would say if you ask anybody at halftime of that game yesterday, they were like,
Yeah, of course,
it's done. We need to move on." That typically holds up, but we'll see. We'll see. But I think they're in a weird position real quick that their roster is too good to wait.
Yes.
That's a scary place to
yeah.
be because you don't want to waste an expensive but a really good they got 2 years, just kind of like San Francisco. We're watching them go through it. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like Garoppolo has a ceiling. It's slowed him down, but not yet. I would say if there's somebody available next year, somebody unhappy, it might still happen, but we'll see. Long season.
Yes, it is. All right, so I'm gonna go to the next topic. Are the Colts the worst team in the NFL right now? Is that an overreaction or an underreaction? Jeff, you go first.
I'm going to stick with my. I'm going to say under, because I'm sticking with my preseason pick that I think the Bears are the worst team in football, and that's the only thing
Thank you,
keeping.
Jeff.
The
Thank
Colts
you.
have had the worst start, one of the worst starts I've ever seen. But when it's all said and done, they got Jonathan Taylor. That's enough. Like that's enough to put them just above the Bears, who have a zero. Like it's one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, the Bears aren't good. I think they benefited from Trey Lance being last week
And weather.
In his first season as a full-time starter. The weather was absolutely disgusting, and they just took advantage of that. And but yeah, the Bears aren't good at all.
No.
So I agree. Ken, overreaction, underreaction.
The Colts have looked like the worst team in football through 2 weeks.
Yes, and this is what we're talking about. Through 2 weeks, are they the worst team in football?
Through 2 weeks, they have played like the worst team in football. They are not the worst team in football, but they have played like that because they were even fortunate to get a tie. They were even fortunate to get a tie from the Texans because they looked dead. And then you just put up 0 points against the Jags. And don't get me wrong, that this Jags team's improved, but it is not 0 points quality team.
Not shutting out. You should not get shut out by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes.
And I know part of that's also going to be the fact that in the fourth quarter, they kept going for it on fourth down because they're trying to get back in it when they could have kicked points. But that doesn't matter. They scored 0 points on Sunday. They didn't have Michael Pittman and looked completely lost because they don't have any other weapons outside of him throwing the football. And I think that showed. Now, reports today were that he may be back for week 3, but if he's not, you got to figure this out quickly because the Titans, they're playing their toughest tests over these first number of weeks, and then it starts to ease off a bit later on. And you don't want to be sitting there at 0-3, and then you have to go into the meat of your schedule because you should be 2-0 looking at the start of the year. 2 division games against 2 of the bottom 8 teams in football, and you're 1-1. Sorry.
1-1.
'cause
Defeated.
ties in
They
football,
are defeated. Yeah.
they are defeated.
I don't think they're the worst. Like I agree with Ken. I don't think they're the worst team in football, but man, it doesn't. It's not
played
looking
like
good.
it.
They have definitely played like that. So I don't think they'll finish as the worst team. I think there's worse teams, Texans, the Bears, and all that. But not a good start. Not a good start to the
I kept thinking I had to send Stu a text every hour just to make sure that he was
Stu
doing okay.
would probably say this is,
because it wasn't good enough to send him one. It had to be hourly. Like, how are you processing this, Stu? Are you doing okay?
Our guy Stu is not doing well right now. He's he's just not doing good right now.
That was tough. That was tough to watch.
That's tough to watch. But all right, let's go to our next one. Are the Bengals and the Raiders, they're both 0-2. Are they done? Are their seasons over? Overreaction, underreaction. Ken?
One of them is dead to me. One of them. And to me, it's the Raiders.
Oh,
the Raiders are dead. Okay. And we just talked about that earlier, Jeff, about the Raiders and all that.
Now, here's the thing about the Raiders is that we knew opening up the season they were going to have Chargers, and Cardinals could have gone either way. So, but you still have 5 division games left, and you really can probably only afford to go worst case 9-6 the rest of the way if you're going to get in. And 9-8 you may not get in as the 7 seed in the AFC this year. So you probably have to go 10-5 the rest of the way, having those 5 division games. So
yeah, it's going to be tough.
That's a very tough road, because even if they go 500 in the division, let's say, and they're 3-3 in the division when the season's done, that means that they can only afford to have another 2 losses outside of that. So I don't know. To me, that's a tough road. Whereas I look at Cincinnati, and yes, they've looked putrid the last couple weeks, but they still get to play Pittsburgh a couple times where Trubisky doesn't look great.
Oh, Mitchell.
And the fact that they're not going to have TJ Watt for a little bit as well is another reason why Pittsburgh, I just don't think, is going to be there. So I think that the division shapes up better for Cincinnati to go 10-5 the rest of the way and make a real run at it.
Okay. Jeff?
Yes, they're both in trouble. I say it's a overreaction as far as basically Ken covered everything. And I believe that the Bengals can kind of figure something out. What they've done now is they've lost a couple games that last year they found a way to win. And that's been the difference. We talked about it all last year with the Bengals. Like they walked the tightrope, 5 game winning field goals, so on and so forth. I think the Raiders are in worse trouble because of their division. You know, they're obviously playing for a wild card. And what I saw on the field yesterday with the Ravens and the Dolphins, that's at least 2 teams better. So there's just not a lot of spots left when you consider, the talent in the AFC, and they're going to lose more games in their division. I think the Raiders are in worse shape. They're on life support. They're for sure on life support. Yeah. I think the Bengals will get that win back against the Steelers. They got to double up Cleveland, and that kind of sets them even. But they do play a division winner schedule, which is always tough. Division winners, that's why the NFL does it. So they'll have a tough schedule, going forward. But they definitely made it hard on themselves so far. But with that offensive line, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. That doesn't look like something you can fix overnight.
Yeah. And they upgraded the offensive line too, added Lyle Collins.
I guess.
They just
I think the name doesn't go with the production.
It's not. It's definitely not, because he was talking a lot of stuff how Joe Burrow's not going to get touched this year, and Joe Burrow's been getting touched up a lot.
That, and to be honest, Taylor and Burrow have to learn to play a game where, Tom Brady, I've said this a million times, Tom Brady hasn't played this long and always had a good offensive line. You have to learn to play to their strengths. You can't have Burrow taking these long drops and standing there and waiting for Chase to break open. You might just have to speed it up. So that's play calling. That's that's in the quarterback
room. I mentioned that to
room.
Ken before, that
it's not all
he's holding the ball way too long, and that's hurting the offensive line too. And I see that with Daniel Jones too. Like a lot of the sacks, especially in the Titans game, it's him holding the ball too long and running and moving up into the pocket.
You got 2.5 seconds.
Sacks. Yeah,
you can't take a lot from Aaron Rodgers as a person, but as a football player, what he's always been so good at is the fact that he just gets rid of the football. call. If it's
Quick,
not
yeah,
He
there,
he's quick with it.
understands.
he understands that, look, it does not make sense
Brady
for me
too.
to take a sack here and make it tougher on our team when I can throw it
Yep.
away and then I can move on to the next play. And
Yeah.
not enough guys
Absolutely.
do that. They're
So
too
that
worried
I
about their completion percentage and how that's going to affect their contract
Yeah,
negotiations.
Yeah,
completion
Burrow.
percentage is overrated too. So like, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people worry about, oh, he's got a close to 7. Well, how many chances is he taking, and what type of throws is he making? Like, I don't care about that. Like, just like Stafford has like a low 60s, but you see the way he throwing the football, and like, so like that's they got to figure
Yeah.
out. Zach Taylor was someone who was almost on the hot seat last year before they started
Yeah.
winning ball games. Like, so
And then
we'll see.
extended him after
And they
that.
extended him
So
after they get to the Super Bowl, but we've seen teams who have lost Super Bowl not get back.
Yeah.
Super
Like,
Bowl
we've seen
hangover
this.
is a real
Super Bowl
thing.
hangover is not just like a year thing. It could be years. So
Yeah.
we'll see. All right, last overreaction, underreaction, and then we'll go to our hot take of the week, and then we'll close it out. All right, is Baker done as a starting quarterback in the NFL?
We've already covered this, so
We covered
this is
this,
Jeff.
but
This
Jeff,
is you.
I know we're very
He's-
anti Baker in at the network, but I watched the game. Obviously, the Giants, and my Giants are 2-0, by the way, guys. I think I'm, so congratulations to my New York Football Giants. But
Yeah.
he cost them the game
Yeah.
because that game was easily winnable for them. I feel like he cost them the game, so I just don't think he's that good. Whatever. So I think he's no longer a starting quarterback.
I
But Jeff,
think he's.
what do you think?
I think he's done as a realistic starter for your franchise. I don't think he's done
Yes.
as a starter, but I don't think anybody's like. I think he's done as a potential franchise quarterback. I don't think you can no
Yeah, I
longer
think you could
see it as
get
a.
rid of that franchise.
But
type
will
of
he start
quarterback.
more games? He will, and he'll win some. I
And that's
understand
kind of
it.
what I meant as
Yeah.
far as like, is he done as being your week
Yeah.
1 starter and you expect him to play 17
Yes.
games? I think
Yes, I
that's
believe
over. I
that's
think
over.
if he's your backup or you're expecting him to be a bridge quarterback, like you kind of like Trubisky, like, hey, playing for a few games and then get our quarterback ready, to be, our young quarterback to be ready. I think maybe that's the type of quarterback he'll be for the next few years. But as someone that you think, all right, for the whole season, he's going to be our guy, I think it's over.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
you're talking about a Carolina team where their defense only gave up 45 points through the first 2 weeks, and you're 0-2.
And they're 0-2.
So, and you're
Defense
not
put them in
playing, and you're
the-
not playing great teams. That's what it boils
Yeah.
down to. Is even if you're 1-1,
Oh.
okay, we can always forgive one bad loss.
All right,
but when you
gentlemen.
go back to back, it's tough.
Real quick, this has been awesome. Unfortunately, I have my show
No, of
scheduled for
course.
tonight.
Jeff, thank you for hopping on for the few days you
Yeah,
did.
this was great. You did a great job. I love the topics. I cannot wait to do it again. I'm so excited
Yes,
about this.
we'll be back next week for sure.
Yes, me and Mo Murphy are going to go kick
Yes,
ass
promote
on
the
a
show
college
quick.
football show for
Promote
the
the
week.
show quick before you hop off. Promote
Yeah,
it quick.
go check out Jeff Needs Sports. Find me everywhere. We're doing a live NCAA football reaction show that we do. This is our 3rd week of it. It's going really well. And go catch that. We'll put it on the Off the Ball Network YouTube feed also. So we'll be right there by this great show. Appreciate all the help, all the support out there. It's been a blast. It's great to work with you two again. Show sounds great, looks great. I'm excited for the future of it.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. Make sure to check that out. The
Absolutely. See you
VPs
later,
got a
gentlemen.
great show coming up. College football. Hopefully they don't kill my Canes too much because
Thank you, Ohio State, for covering.
Ohio State for. But all right, Ken. Let's end it off with our hot take of the week. Ken, what's your hot take?
I think that through 2 weeks of football, we have been shown that the Detroit Lions can realistically have the 7 seed in the NFC this year.
They're fun.
It's not even like everyone's going to talk about how fun they are, but let's really break down looking at the NFC, how they've looked through the first couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
First, one team has to come out of the South, but I think only one team is coming out of the South because Atlanta and Carolina are dead.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and I don't trust the Saints. I mean, do you trust the Saints to do like?
And I think if they do come out,
but
it's because Tampa Bay is that bad. Because Tom also didn't look great for 3 quarters yesterday, and he didn't look great week 1 either. Now, I'm not going to go that far. I think you give Tom the benefit of the doubt that they're going to be one of the teams that are in there. You go to the West, Arizona, we are still iffy on. San Fran now with Jimmy and the Rams, I think, are both playoff teams, so that takes us to 3. The NFC East right now, I think it's only a one-team division until we see how Dallas is going to look over the next number of weeks. Best case scenario is 2, but I think it's a one division. And that leaves 3 playoff spots.
So
Between
you
Arizona,
might get 3 from the NFC North. We could get 3 from the North.
I think there's a possibility of it. I want to see how Minnesota looks tonight. I don't want to overreact too much to a bad Green Bay week 1, but because I think we all assume the Eagles are going to be there with how talented their roster is top to bottom. But if Minnesota looks good today, I think the fact that Detroit gave Philly the fight that they did, that a lot of it was garbage time, but they end up losing that game by 3 points. Yeah. And Jared Goff looked good. The run game looks good. You got a pass rush now with Hutchinson up front. I think 9-8 is realistic in the NFC this year for making the 7th seed. That's where it differs from the AFC, where I think you have to have 10 wins. You may even have an 8-win team in the NFC, just the way that it's been. So that's where I'm at. I think that there is a real possibility that we see the Detroit Lions as the 7 seed.
Yeah, and in the NFC, it's kind of, there's no clear cut like favorite. Like everyone's, Tampa Bay's 2-0, but they have a lot of injuries, and that could be their Achilles heel this year is injuries. Like that could be what derails their season. The Rams, obviously Super Bowl champions, but they didn't look good in week 1, and they almost blew it against a bad Falcons team. They almost blew it against the Falcons. So it's like, all right. Obviously, the 49ers, no Trey Lance, but they got Jimmy G there. We'll see how Jimmy G does because they weren't all in on Jimmy G. They didn't want him on the team. And now now they're probably happy that they kept him because if they didn't have him, they would be really screwed. So that's a good insurance. The Vikings, we always think the Vikings are like, all right, it's going to be the Vikings year. It's going to be the Vikings year. And then they Vikings us every year. Yeah. Can they finally un-Vikings and actually live up to, expectations, So it's like, the Packers, we don't know what the Packers are, Aaron Rodgers is going to cry to the media about, this and that, I got my gripe about Aaron Rodgers. He just annoys me, but, we don't know about them. They got a young receiving core, and all that, even though they look good, but it was against the Bears yesterday. So, and then the Eagles, the Giants, we don't know. I think there's a lot of questions in the NFC. So the Lions being in the playoffs, that's not crazy. That could happen. Lions fans feeling good right now. They're feeling.
It sounds crazy just because I said the Detroit Lions might be in the playoffs with Jared Goff as a quarterback, but the way that things have crazy looked,
he went from being overrated just a few years ago, right? Didn't score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. People are like, oh, he's the reason why they didn't win. Kind of like what Jimmy G went through, right? Like, oh, he's the reason why they couldn't get over the hump. Now, and then the Rams win the Super Bowl, right? And it's like, oh, yep. But now he's kind of underrated. And you're like, okay, the Lions might be a team, they might be in a sweepstakes to get one of these young quarterbacks. Jared Goff's not an old guy. He could be the guy for the next at least few years. He's looking good.
And I'll give Cole credit in the chat today. He did mention the fact that there's quarterbacks that are going to be looking for jobs this year where you would look at this Lions team after, we'll see how the season goes, but even if they're a 7-8 win team, let's say they don't get to that 7 seed, but they're still pretty good, we may be looking at this situation in Detroit with Dan Campbell, and you got DeAndre Swift as a running back there. Amon-Ra St. Brown looks like a superstar type wide receiver now.
Eight straight games with 8 catches or more. He's looked really good.
You got to look at that situation and think, I could be the guy that goes to Detroit and starts making some noise, and they'll pay you. They're definitely going to be in Detroit if you're going to be the franchise quarterback. So
you could be a legend.
I don't hate it.
You could be a legend.
I think that's a better situation than you're going to get out of a lot of other teams that are going to be looking for quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. My hot take of the week. I don't know. I feel like I'm a Dolphins fan right now, but I think that the Dolphins are a Super Bowl contender. That's my hot take. I think they're a Super Bowl. I just love this team. I liked this team before the season. But
this team's very comparable to Cincy last year.
They're very
but
Cincy-like.
to me, while they don't have Joe Burrow and they have Tua, because to me he is a step below what a Joe Burrow would be. What they do
Yeah.
have is a better defense, a better offensive line with comparable weapons, and
Mhm.
we know that with the AFC playoffs, this is going to be largely matchup based. Like you
Yeah.
could get Tennessee gets in as the 7 and they get Buffalo as the 2, and suddenly Buffalo's heading home early just because
Yeah.
the styles mesh that way. And I think
Mhm.
Miami's a team where, because they have the good defense, they've got a pretty decent run game, they've got weapons on offense, they're a tough team to beat any given week.
Oh
There's
yeah.
going to be weeks where Tua is going to be flat, but every quarterback has weeks where they're going to be flat.
Exactly.
And when he is flat, that doesn't mean that he's not good. That just means that he's every other quarterback in the NFL that has an off week.
Yeah.
Everyone will
And
overreact, of course.
yeah,
But
it's gonna.
that's what we're
That's
here
why it's
for on
called. That's why
Overreaction
we're here.
Monday.
This is why this is Overreaction Monday. And the defense didn't look great. They didn't have a sack, but they got guys on defense. They got Jalen Phillips, who they took.
Xavier Howard was so close to a pick six. Like
Yeah.
Lamar put it on a platter for him to pick six it, and he just couldn't haul it in. But that's why he's a DB and not a wide receiver.
I think their defense will play a lot better. They did not play good at all, but they got some guys on this defense. Christian Wilkins, like I said, Jalen Phillips, who's a hurricane. Xavier Howard, like they got guys on this team. Melvin Ingram, who they picked up. They got guys, so I think they'll play a lot better going forward. Next week's gonna be a test against Buffalo. I think that'll tell us a lot about this football team, and then we'll react to that. But I like this Dolphins team. I like them. Like I said, this is why it's Overreaction Monday, because we're gonna overreact, and that's my overreaction for this week, and that's my hot take also. That the Dolphins are a Super Bowl team. But Ken, I appreciate your time, buddy.
Of course, dude. It's always awesome to be on here. I'm still not sure if I'm even going to be doing a show the next couple days, because I've sworn off baseball, and that's all that we have the next 2 days. So I probably still will go live and get suckered into having some baseball plays tomorrow, but I always do go live.
Baseball's killing me, McKen. Baseball is killing my pockets. I could have had a couple.
And
a
the
nice
thing
week,
is,
but
I've been getting midweek soccer, and it's been glorious because soccer has been very profitable so far, and unfortunately, just no midweek soccer, at least not until Wednesday, I think, is when we have one game, and then we have a bunch on Thursday. So I might have to wait until then, but let's be honest, I'll probably go live, give a couple baseball plays that I'm not that confident in, and that'll be the show. But Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time for Competitive Hedge Podcast. That's where we're at, and we are profitable this month. Barely, but we're profitable, and that's what it's all about, is winning
hey,
people
if you
money.
follow me in Ken's bets just alone, if you just parlay our 2 bets that we've done daily,
The Off the Ball Network parlay always dies because of some stupid bet.
Walker.
Now, I killed it yesterday, but there was a lot
Walker.
of people that killed it.
Just-
So I feel
just
better when it's not
Just say his
me.
name. Say Walker's name. Walker
Bailey.
You're under 500, Walker.
At Walker Bailey 818.
At Walker Bailey. He is no longer verified no more.
It's no longer verified.
Elon Musk.
I think he's not verified because he keeps losing people money. I think that's what's happened here.
Come on, Walker. You got to win us some money. You're like 6 games under 500 too. Like, come on. You're on the chopping block, man. But I thought I've been doing well. I've been doing well. I think I'm like 9-3 or 8-3. I took some risks too, and that's been my thing. I like taking risks. I took that Royals bet a few days ago. I did my research. I was like, I'm feeling good. Boom. It was like plus 130. Some people were like, it's risky. I felt good, and they won like 11-0.
Hey,
so
I took a player prop on Thursday Night Football of Isaiah McKenzie anytime touchdown at plus 275 and cashed it. Sometimes it's just the feeling that you have going into a game. And sometimes that feeling, you start questioning, okay, wait, is that guy that I had a feeling about, is he even on the field? Because I haven't seen him, and it's the third
Isn't
quarter.
that the most stressful thing going into betting, is like you look at the lines and you're like, okay, I feel good about this. And then you just have that moment of like, wait a minute, I do feel good, but like I don't know. And then there's that hesitation. That's the worst thing, is the hesitation.
As soon as you start the game and then you realize, oh, that guy that had these tremendous odds, there's a reason why, because he's not on the field for a lot of it, and then you're starting to stress.
I think that's the stress of betting and all that. But we have a good record overall with our daily bets, and we're gonna hit on a parlay. I think we're 0-18 or 0-19.
The issue is we keep adding people, and that makes it that much tougher.
Obviously, the more you put, the tougher it is. But we're going to hit.
We're gonna hit a parlay.
We went like
this month.
4-1, 5-1 a few times. Walker messed it up, but we're gonna hit. We're gonna hit. So make sure to follow OTBN Bets also. On top of Off the Ball Network, OTBN Network on Twitter. It's where we're most active. Make sure to check out the offtheballnetwork.com. I got an article. We just heard about the NBA possibly the going to 2024 season. Let high school kids back into the draft. That hasn't happened since 2005 or 2006, if I'm correct. So that'll happen. We'll see high school kids. So I actually just wrote a piece about the top 20 high school players to go to the NBA. So check that out, offtheballnetwork.com. But I'm Chris LeBron, like I said, owner of the Off the Ball Network. Check me out Off the Ball Pod on Twitter, Off the Ball Pod podcast. You can check that out. Got a pod coming out probably this week. I'm finally going to drop that Sebastian Telfair doc. So I'm excited about that. So on that note, that's Ken. I'm Chris. And Overreaction Monday, first one of the year. Excited about the next one. Make sure to check out Jeff and Mo talking college football also on the network. So be well, be safe, take care. Peace out, guys.